Okay, hi guys. This is the walkthrough for Tuesday's assignment. So the first section of problems you have to do is 39 through 44. It asks, can two angles of a kite be as follows, and to explain. So the best way to explain here is to use the sketch um, and just sketch out what they're asking. So we want to know is, can we form a kite with two angles that are opposite and acute? So opposite are two angles that are across from each other, and acute means they're going to be less than 90. Okay, so if you have two angles here, right? If you have a kite, right? Can these two angles be acute? Right? Those are the opposite ones. Can they be acute? Yes. They can be less than 90. There's no reason why this can't be 45 degrees, and that one also be 45 degrees. Okay, so you can draw one if you want to do a little bit better. Let's draw it a little bigger, maybe with a thinner line. And we could say that this is 45 degrees. That's not what we wanted. And this is 45 degrees. That would absolutely work for our kite, right? You have one pair of opposite sides that's congruent, and certainly that could be less than 90 degrees, right? An acute angle is one that is less than 90 degrees, and they're opposite. So you have a pair of opposite angles. Two angles in a kite are opposite angles, and they're acute. They're less than 90. So that one is a yes. Yep. And then we have our diagram to explain. Number 40 here, obtuse and consecutive. So consecutive angles would be ones that are next to each other, and obtuse means that they're greater than 90 degrees, or between 90 and 180. So if we draw a kite, or let's just start by drawing an obtuse angle. Okay, greater than 90, and now we want to try and make it into a kite. Well, if we have our consecutive angle, it also has to be obtuse, right? So if we're going to make this a kite, right, it would have to look something like this, right? But we can't, oh wow, let's delete those individually, right? But we can't have another acute angle. We need it to be an obtuse angle. So that means we need to make it greater than 90 degrees. Okay, and then when you finish your last piece, you're clearly not going to have a kite. So this one's not going to work, okay? Because if you have two consecutive angles that are both greater than 90 degrees, you're not going to be able to form a kite, because that last side is going to be too long to be congruent with any of the other three pieces. This fourth side of our quadrilateral is too long. It's not going to be congruent with either one of these, because remember, a kite has two pairs of consecutive sides that are congruent. Okay, so that would be good for 39 and 40. 41, opposite and supplementary. So supplementary means that they add up to 180. Can you have a kite where two opposite angles, where two opposite angles add up to 180 degrees? Sketch it out, see if you can draw it, see if it'll work. 42, consecutive and supplementary. Can you have two angles that are supplementary add up to 180? Again, sketch it out and see if you can make a kite that would work there. Opposite and complementary would be complementary, remember, means they add up to 90 degrees. So can you have opposite angles that add up to 90 degrees? And then consecutive and complementary are two angles that are next to each other in a kite that would add up to 90 degrees. Is that possible? Okay. Yep, we'll let you work on those four. Okay. See if it's yes or no, and just try and sketch them out. Okay. Let's go to the next section. So the next section here is ask us name each type of special quadrilateral that can meet the given conditions and make sketches to support your answers. So I did link the reference sheet with all the properties for each type of quadrilateral if you want to look at that for help here too. But let's do a couple of them. So exactly one pair of congruent sides. Okay. So exactly one pair of congruent sides. So let's just go through our list. Parallelograms have two pairs of opposite sides that are parallel. So we know it's not going to be a parallelogram. And if it's not a parallelogram, that means it's not a rectangle, a rhombus, or a square, because rectangles, rhombuses, and squares are parallelograms. They have all four of those have two pairs of opposite sides. We know that kites have two pairs of consecutive sides that are congruent. So we know it's not a kite. And then what's left is trapezoids. We know if the trapezoid is an isosceles trapezoid, it is then going to have one pair. So our only answer here is going to be isosceles trapezoid. Right, and then it tells us make sketches to support our answer. So if we, oops. Right. If we have an isosceles triangle, our trapezoid, our legs are congruent. So we would have exactly one pair there of congruent sides. Okay, so isosceles trapezoid is going to be our only answer for that one. Okay, 48, two pairs of parallel sides. So we know that's going to be a parallelogram. It has two pairs of opposite sides that are parallel, so we can draw a parallelogram. Okay. And if it's a parallelogram, we know that rhombuses, rectangles, and squares are all parallelograms. So those will also have two pairs of parallel sides. So we can do a rectangle. A rhombus. Right, four congruent sides. And then we can also do a square. So a square has four right angles and four congruent sides. Okay. And then our other choices here would be trapezoids. Well, trapezoids are defined as having exactly one pair of parallel sides, so it's not going to be a trapezoid. And then a kite. We know if a kite is defined as having two pairs of consecutive sides that are parallel. If those two pairs of consecutive sides turned out to be congruent to each other, then you would have a rhombus. So it could be a kite as well. We could add kite in there, but that kite would have to be a rhombus, right? A rhombus can be a kite if the two pair of sides are the same. So it could be a kite, but that would be the same sketch here as the rhombus. Okay, and then we'll leave the other four for you guys to try and figure out. Again, use the property sheet. We should be able to figure out which one of these quadrilaterals have right angles, adjacent sides. That's the same as consecutive sides that are congruent, perpendicular diagonals, and congruent diagonals. There's two answers for the last two, right? There's two different ones. Well, actually, there's three that are going to be answers for each of those. That's good for that section. The last section I have you do here is 57 through 62, which is true or false, and then a quick justification of your answer. So again, we can do a couple of them, and then we'll leave the other. We'll do the first two, and then leave the other four for you guys. So 57, all squares are rectangles. Well, a square is defined as a quadrilateral with four right angles. And four congruent sides. So here's a square. A rectangle is defined as a quadrilateral with 4 right angles. And since all squares have 4 right angles, all squares are going to be rectangles. So that is true. A rectangle is a quadrilateral with 4 right angles. All squares have 4 right angles. So therefore, all squares are going to be rectangles. So that one is true. And there's our sketch. You can write that out in words or just give the sketch. A trapezoid is a parallelogram. We defined a trapezoid as having exactly one pair of parallel sides. And we defined a parallelogram as having 2 pairs of parallel sides. Right. So since this one only has exactly one pair, it's not going to be a parallelogram. So this is going to be false. Again, there are some definitions of trapezoids where a trapezoid would, or where a parallelogram would be a trapezoid, and they define trapezoid of having one, at least one, or one or more um, um, pairs of parallel opposite sides that are parallel. But we used the exactly one pair, so that one's going to be false, and it would be false anyways because a trapezoid isn't always going to be a parallelogram. Even with that other definition. And then I'm going to leave you guys to try 59. A rhombus can be a kite. Some parallelograms are squares. Every quadrilateral is a parallelogram, and all rhombuses are squares. So we want true or false for those, and then an explanation in words or with a diagram. And again, please contact me, email me, text me on a reminder if you need any help during the day. We'll do Google Meet at 7:30. We can also do a Google Meet upon request if you want to do it at a different time. Just let me know. And again, we're going to start making, if you're turning in these in late, they're not going to be worth full credit in the future. Okay, so let's get it done today, please.